All right, I see you're ready to rest a bit. So in preparation for your 5-minute vacation, I have a Thich Nhat Hanh reading. Suppose someone is holding a pebble and throws it in the air, and the pebble begins to fall down into a river. After the pebble touches the surface of the water, it allows itself to sink slowly into the river. It will reach the bed of the river without any effort. Once the pebble is at the bottom of the river, it continues to rest. It allows the water to pass by. I think the pebble reaches the bed of the river by the shortest path because it allows itself to fall without making any effort. During our sitting meditation, we allow ourselves to rest like a pebble. We can allow ourselves to sink naturally without effort, the position of sitting, the position of resting. All right, it's that time of year. Resting. All right. So, okay, today I'm going to, oh, by the way, you're all going to have or will be getting an email telling you that there's a very slight change in the schedule of the lectures. So if that matters to you, by all means read it and change your syllabus. The same lecture, just a slightly different order. Next week is the same, so the week after it, different. Okay, today I'm going to attempt to give the first of the three answers, or of three answers to your most frequently asked and pressing and intelligent question about, well, a lot of your questions are intelligent, but this is what's being asked right now. And it is, if what we've looked at so far is true, then it doesn't have, nothing has any meaning. Why do anything, right? Last time I said, well, when you've seen through the samsaric front of things, when you've seen its emptiness, behold, the whole world arises as interdependence. But the question is still, so what? Okay, so it's interdependent, but what's its meaning? Okay, now, this is nihilism. So why bother with this? And reason one, emptiness gets confused with a whole bunch of stuff, right? Alienation, existentialism, postmodernism, meaninglessness, anomie, sociological term. Don't worry about it if you haven't encountered it yet. It's not a yummy. And even Marxism. So it's confused with it. And reason two is that, yeah, I mean, all of that stuff refers to something in our experience, something very real. And they're a salient part of human experience. As we go up, we also go down. And so the point is to really identify what Shunyata actually is, and that's by contrasting it to this whole family of beliefs and emotions that are seem to be close enough to it, according to the way we think and feel about things, that they get confused. So today is this fun day when I will be rubbing your noses in some of these psychological states as hopefully an inoculation against making the confusion. Now, this actually, I'm calling it Western nihilism or modern nihilism, but the same thing happened historically. We've got a reading of Nagarjuna's Haritas as interpreted by a teacher who came later. This is the way Nagarjuna is normally pictured, and so he wrote this stuff about Shunyata, and people got weirded out by it, and they were starting to worry and leave monasteries a bit and be less generous in their support. And our scholars will often credit some of the future developments in Buddhism to the attempts to address this problem. Okay, now nihilism as a philosophy, the God is dead and everything is different from the psychology in the sense of the philosophy part does what philosophers do, it talks and reasons, and the psychology is that we actually have feelings like this, but they can get confused. And one example that I've seen happening at our own GTU, the Graduate Theological Union, is that some aspects of Christianity or some Christian groups seem to want to dialogue with nihilism and worry about creation ex nihilo and this kind of thing, the cloud of unknowing. And they try to force Buddhism into that role, and they'll go around and they'll find some Zen teacher who sounds like it, and then if other, so they have dialogues, they have other Buddhists who say, well, that isn't the Buddhism I know such and such, and they say, well, we've never heard of that. It's one of those things. Okay, so I'm going to go through three topics to talk about what is this psychological state of emptiness, meaninglessness, or point to it, define it by pointing to examples, and then what does Western psychology do with it? How do they explain it? How do they try to do therapy with it? And finally, the way that Buddhism talks about it and the instructions that are given to people about it. So let me start with this person, this author, Andreev, who's a 20th century Russian author, and he's the most depressed author that I've ever been able to find. It's just, it's a paradigm, and you can see by the titles of his works, The Seven That Were Hanged and Other Stories, The Abyss, The Lies, and finally, Lazarus, which I'm going to talk about. It's a short story. So here is Andreev, note the frown, and here's a woodcut. Now, Lazarus, is the person who was raised by the dead, by Jesus. So here's a woodcut of kind of Andreev's take on it. And so he's going to write a story about Lazarus. And note, it's all given from the point of view of people observing the miracle that someone was raised from the dead, but there's nobody asked Lazarus how he felt about it. So, there weren't reporters coming with their microphone and saying, oh, Lazarus, it feels he's been dead for 3 days. And so Andreev now is going to imagine, so there's a party to welcome Lazarus back. His relatives have invited everybody in. And they're all eating and drinking and making merry, and Lazarus is sitting there. And then some people notice that he's very quiet. In fact, he looks kind of bloated. I mean, he's been dead for a couple of days. And his eyes are staring. He doesn't look amused by any of the party. And as they look him in the face, they begin to feel awful. And when they go home, they're not interested in their family, their wives, food, their jobs, their farms. Their grapes begin to wither. Their animals are lowing, and they don't care if they feed them, and they begin to wither away. And then the curious tourists come to see this guy and they look at him, and a great dark cloud descends. And so we get all objects, this is now what people experience, all objects seen by the eye, impalpable to the hand, become empty, as though they were shadows in the darkness. And darkness enveloped the whole universe. and surrounded by darkness and empty waste, man trembled hopelessly before the dread of the infinite. Finally, the emperor notices that Lazarus is ruining his subject and calls him in and does what Roman emperors did then, puts out Lazarus' eyes so he can't, convey this to anyone anymore, and then sends him home. And one day, Lazarus walks out into the desert and is never seen from again. Okay, there we have this like existential angst of, in the face of the dread of the infinite, nothing has meaning. So the end result is this kind of generalized despair. Other examples, Sartre, French existentialism, again, his works, Being and Nothingness, Nausea, and so on. Slightly different tone of ways of portraying meaninglessness. Now it has a fancier title. It's now Existential Meaninglessness and Despair. And the example is another short story, The Wall. So there's Sartre, and that's somebody up against a wall. It's the Spanish Civil War. The protagonist of the story and two of his compatriots have been caught and arrested, and they're in a cell, and they're waiting execution the next morning. And so it's a story of the hero, anti-hero, whatever, his total degeneration from a Spanish Civil War hero fighter to various states of mind. Once I had the impression of my whole life before me, but now I thought to myself, it's all a goddamn lie. Now it wasn't worth anything because it was finished. It's lack of meaning and lack of worth in anything. I wondered how I had ever been able to go out and have a good time with the girls. I wouldn't have lifted my little finger if I'd ever imagined I'd die like this. Death had taken the charm out of everything. In the state I was in, if they'd come and told me I could go home quietly and my life would be saved, it would have left me cold. A few hours or a few years of waiting are all the same when you've lost your illusions. Nothing mattered to me anymore. In a way, I was calm. Okay, is this like meditation? Well, but it was a horrible kind of calm. And the telling point, later, he looks at his two companions, who of course are also very upset, and they're peeing in their pants and they're not enjoying it. And one of them is young and he's sobbing uncontrollably. For 1 second, one single second, I too felt like crying. But just the contrary happened. I took one look at the kid, saw his chin, his thin, sobbing shoulders, and I felt I was inhuman. I couldn't feel pity, either for these others or for myself. So no sympathy, no empathy, no compassion. You'll see next week this is very different from the Buddhist result. Well, this isn't just, the end result is this wonderful face that I found represents kind of Sartre's whole personality if you read things like his journals and his bizarre relationships with women and stuff. Okay, but this is not just literature, and it's not just people facing death. If you start looking on blogs, you discover very much there's a whole set of despair blogs, and little things like, how can I hide this abysmal darkness? How long will I put on the mask and tell the world that my life is brimming with passion and meaning? Mask. It is so cold in here inside this shivering and orphaned soul. I am already tired of being human, unable to grasp the absurd reality of human existence, what it means to live and exist in this particular time and space, in this remote and lonely place in the universe. And so the end result, you're absurd, you're lonely, you're dehumanized, and you're just plain depressed. This morning I realized there's also another